Good morning. I'm back in my cornfield. So I just wanted to come out here. I'm going to do a couple yield checks, and we're going to check on a few things that we looked at the last time I was out here and how the fungicide affected that. Okay, so this was the plant that had the physoderma. So you can see it appears there's still spots along the stalk here, and there's a little more over here, it appears, but it doesn't look near as bad. I'm pretty sure this is the plant right here that had it, right there. So, and it looks like that the fungicide cleared that up quite a bit. Now, it's interesting to see the ears starting to hang. So we're gonna go do some checks here. Here you can see we're denting. Whoop, sorry, there you go. Now you can see we're denting pretty good. So I'm gonna go walk down a ways, so I'm kind of out in the middle there. I'll pick a row here somewhere, and I'll do some measurements, count some ears. I'll grab a couple random samples, and we'll do a rough yield check. Alright, so I brought my trusty handy dandy tape measure. I'm going to measure off 17.5 feet, and we're going to count the ears. Alright, so I put my tape measure down here. I counted 17.5 feet, and there are 35 stalks, plants, but one plant did not have an ear, so 34,000 we will call it. Now I'm just going to grab some random ears, not necessarily from this spot. I'm just going to grab a couple ears here and there, 3 to be exact. Alright, now I'm over in the field I call Staffers. This is the one that got hail damage and green snap. So we're going to do a check here. I got my tape measure out at 17.5 feet. So we're going to go ahead and count. Alright, well, the population in this field is disappointing. I ran the tape measure out in a couple different spots and did a bunch of checks, and I'm varying between anywhere between 22 and 29,000. So I knew the population was lower in here, plus we had some green snap, so that's disappointing. Alright, I'm into the field I call Pickars. This is the one that had the worst of the hail damage. As you can see, all these leaves are just shredded. It's like confetti. And I'm going to, again, handy dandy tape measure, go measure a couple spots, get a decent guess on population. This field was my other field that was planted at a higher population, so it should be a little better in this field. Okay, so just did a count here. I counted about 3 times because I ran the tape measure out to the wrong length. Anyway, 38 plants, so that'd be 38,000. Except there were 2 broke off. So 32,000 is my population here. If you look around, you can see broken green snap plants here and there. And as I posted in my previous scouting video, this is the channel. I'm in the channel right now. This is a 103-day channel. This was a little more prone to green snap than the DeKalb that is farther down in the field that way. But we'll go with 32,000, and I'll grab some ears. Alright, well, I got my 3 samples of ears here on the bench. This is the big field. This is Staffers. That is Pickars. Well, this is pretty disappointing. Looks like some of those kernels were aborted. I don't think that's a pollination issue at all. I think it aborted those kernels. This is a chrome, a Pioneer chrome corn, 03 something. So that is by far the most tipped back. I mean, there's some in this one, but very minimal. This is Stafford's. This is a 97-day channel. There's a little bit, hardly any tip back, and these ears are huge. I mean, just this ear right here, this thing is massive. That is just the biggest, fullest ear. So I'm really disappointed in this. The population's higher, so that'll help a little, but this, they keep telling me this is a flex hybrid, and it'll flex even, you know, because the population ended up, we had a poor stand, and then with the green snap, that this would flex into bigger ears. That must be true, because that thing is just a massive ear. So it's going to have huge ears to make up for that poor population there. And then this, so far this field is looking like the clear winner. I mean, without even counting numbers, we have a good population. What, 32,000 I think was my harvestable on that field, and these ears are nice. So, well, let's get to doing some counts. I'm going to compare a couple different yield counting methods, and we're going to try a few things. We're going to try the Pioneer app. We're going to try an app I have, and then we're going to also do the math. So let me get some paper, and we'll start counting these. Okay, so my buddy just stopped by, and we were talking about these, and I was not counting the first 3 rounds of this, and I was dropping off, well, basically in this, and this one is easy to stop right about there. But he only drops off the first 2 rows that aren't full rounds and goes from there, because you're still going to get these kernels in the combine. So I was being a little too conservative on these, so I went back and recounted them. That gave me a little better. So this one was 18 by 24, 18 by 29, 18 by 32, and then we went back out to the field, and I'll show you. So right up in here is kind of where I walked out, about down there. It's about where I walked out and grabbed these samples. We just drove out there, took the Ranger out, and I grabbed some samples down here. So what we really noticed about this chrome variety is it's very inconsistent. You'd walk around and you'd pull husk back, and some of these would be tipped back, and some of these would hardly have any tip back. So you can see this ear. This is a really nice big ear with hardly any tip back there. In fact, this ear right here, it's not 18 around like these, it's a 16 around, but it's 41 kernels long. So that's a huge difference. I mean, this ear by itself, if you calculate that out, comes to 250 bushel to the acre if they were all like this one, but they're not. So when we average this all together, I'll show you in just a minute, it comes out before with these ones. We were in what, like 163, 197, 217. So that's going to give you somewhere in the neighborhood of a 190, I would guess, yield. I didn't calculate it, but when you add this guy into the mix with all of these, it brings us to about a 207. So that's a lot better. Like I said, it was pretty inconsistent. There were a lot of really big ears like this. There were a lot of ears that were tipped back like these. So it's kind of all over the board. There's some plants that the ears are hanging, some plants the ears are standing up nice and green yet. So some of those ears are going to put test weight on yet. We got about a ½ inch of rain yesterday. So some of the ears will continue to put test weight on. The ears that are hanging, they're pretty much done. So it's going to be very, very variable. It could make for some interesting combining. But so I recalculated those, and then we went out, and I didn't want to walk all the way down into this variety here, but I wanted to see what this variety is doing. So it's on the end rows, and your end rows usually have a little lower yield, but up in here, the end rows do decent. So I just walked out into the at least past 12 rows into the 24 to 36, somewhere in there, and grabbed some ears, and that's these right here. So this is a Pioneer 0589 AMXT. These aren't as big around, but they're nice long ears, and they're full. There's no tip back in that. None. So the chrome apparently does not like drought stress at all. But this variety doesn't care. And we saw that with the channel. Channel, it was kind of random, but we don't have very much tip back. You can tell that's stressed. It's aborting kernels there, but it's not 2 to 3 inches of tip back. So I went and looked at these, and so now I will put up here on the screen, and we'll go through the numbers on the calculations versus the hand calculations and the Pioneer app's crazy numbers, and we'll look at all of these. Well, if you're ready to see the yield results, you're going to have to wait till the end of the video. But since this is YouTube, you can just jump to the end and see them right now. But in the meantime, if you want to keep watching, we're going to change the oil on this guy. I just drained the oil out of the reverser. There's a quart of 80/90, and I'm just letting this jug drain into that. Now we're gonna go do an oil change. So I got my bucket. I never know. There's your drain tube. Am I gonna hit the bucket? Am I gonna overshoot the bucket? Is it gonna dribble and fall back here and miss the bucket completely? I have no idea. I just put it down and hope for the best. So let's go. Actually, I'm not even sure if I can open the drain plug without a pair of pliers, and I'm really not sure why I don't have my pair of pliers on me. Okay, let's see. Oh, which way does it go? Yeah. Apparently not that way. Apparently not that way either. Apparently I need a pair of pliers. I'll go get one of those. Okay, I'm back with a pair of pliers. Don't mock me for being a farmer without a pair of pliers on my hip. Okay, so now that I've shown that I'm like the only guy on YouTube that can't drain oil out of an engine, let's try to drain oil out of an engine again. This is a lot harder one-handed than I thought it would be. Okay, there we go. Open. All right. Now let's see how badly I'm missing the bucket. Well, how come there's no oil coming out? Oh yeah, I'm missing the bucket. Yeah, that's making a mess. look, look. Oh. There we go. I always forget if it comes out fast or slow. Apparently it comes out slow. Well, now all we have to do is wait. So while I've been waiting for the oil to drain, I'm still waiting. I was going to open this cover and tighten the chain behind that cover. But as you can see, I've exhausted all means of niceness. So we'll get it this time. Got bolts coming off one way or another. Look at that. Heat always works. Not always, but I mean, if it doesn't work, you're one step away from just cutting the thing off. So, still draining, and there's our problem right there. So, I will wonder. Hey, imagine that. It's the right size. Hey, that's much better. Oh yeah, she's slappy. Well, we'll get that one tightened up too. Oh yeah, much better. All right, I'm over here on the back corner of the cab where all the wires go in. When I got in the cab this spring, I didn't see much mouse evidence, but we keep a roll of paper towels in the cab, and a little bit of the paper towel roll was chewed. So it didn't look like we had a huge mouse infestation, but might have had one or so. So I thought this is where the mice always come in, over here. So as you can see right back here, this is where all the yield monitor wires come in. And we shoved this full of steel wool, but you can just see they've been pushing this aside, and it looks like they're getting in a little bit. So I grabbed another one, and I'm gonna shove this one in here also. It keeps them from digging. The steel wool is not very fun for them, so hopefully that one now will help keep them out. And you can see where I've had to repair wires that they chewed on before with a little liquid electrical tape. And there's some chewing right there. I should put a little liquid electrical tape on that one. And there's some chewing right there on this wire, if it'll focus. This black wire that needs some liquid electrical tape on. So it's a never-ending battle trying to stay ahead of the mice and keep them from chewing up all the wires. And whatever ag leader uses for coating their wires, the mice just love. So we got that little bit of extra steel wool there, and we'll fix up them couple wires, and then I just have to do a little testing and make sure everything is working the way it should. Alright, if you have an ag leader moisture sensor on the side of your clean grain elevator, every spring or fall or whatever, before you fire this thing up, you should take this plug out and make sure there's no crud in there. There's a little crud, but not much. So that is the #1 cause of blown motor fuses, which should be right here, right there, by your moisture module. There's a fuse right there. That's the fuse to the motor. And when the motor can't turn freely, it pops that fuse. So the hardest part is getting this thing lined back up. I'm going to need 2 hands to do that, so I will do that. So while I was walking around here, I remembered that we were having a problem with our moisture sensor last year. The moisture would never change, which typically means that the motor is not running. So the way this works is there's a hole in the side of the clean grain elevator, and as clean grain comes up this, some falls in this hole. It fills this tube up, and once, this is the moisture sensor right here, once it fills up to this proximity sensor kicks the motor on, and it augers that grain back out and back down to go up again. So, and then this fills up again. Once it hits here, it kicks the auger on, and it just keeps doing that. So it keeps a constant sample of grain in front of this moisture sensor. So what happens when this doesn't work, if this motor doesn't turn on, the same grain sits here all day long and the moisture never changes. And that causes your yields to be off. So I was looking over here, and it appears that a mouse has chewed on the wires of the proximity sensor. Well, it's getting dark. We got the engine oil changed, the reverser oil changed, the tailings chains tightened and lubed. I put more steel wool in the hole for the wires going into the cab, and pulled the proximity sensor out so I can go get that checked out. And we put the combine away. I think the only thing I have left on it is to put the engine access plate in the grain tank back together, and that should be good. Now we're just gonna get the corn head done. So, but as you can see, it's dark. So that's it for tonight. Now we will go do the yield results. All right, everyone, it's that time. It's yield estimation results time. So I'm going to start off here on the big field in the worst corn I found. And this is the report generated from the Pioneer app. So a lot of people say the Pioneer app overestimates, and I have found that to be true compared to my calculations. So here's what we got. Stand count 34,000, 90,000 kernels per bushel. I've heard this number is high. You want to use an actual lower number with today's hybrids, but being as it's a drought year and our test weights will probably be lighter, I decided to leave it there. Pioneer app came up with 225 bushel per acre average, and this is P0306Q or Chrome. And these are the pictures of the 3 that I captured. You can see what they came up with the kernel count. And this ear, based on just this ear, is 180. Just this ear is 242, and just this ear is 254. So that's a little higher than what I came up with. So let's show you that. So here's the picture of the first 3 ears. I only captured the first 3 in the Pioneer app. I went out later and we walked around, pulled a bunch of husks back, and found out that there's a mixture of better ears and more tip back ears. So I grabbed a big one to mix in with these 3 smaller ones just to see what that did to my average. So ear 1 was 18 around, 25 long. It came out to 170, and the Pioneer Yield app had 180. Ear 2 was 18 around, 27 long, came out to 183. Pioneer had 242. It's a big difference. Ear 3, 18 around, 33 long, came out to 224, and Pioneer had 254. So 30 bushel difference. Then ear 4 was 16 around, 43 long. It came out to 259.9 or 260 bushel average. I wish the whole field was those ears, because I would take that. I would take that all day. So the average of the first three was 192 that I calculated. Pioneer had 225. So we're off 33 bushel. It's a bit. Add that fourth one in, and I had 209 average, still less than what Pioneer came up with. So I would say there is a little discrepancy between the calculations and the Pioneer app. And just in case you're wondering, I didn't actually use the big long formula for calculating this out. I went to bigyield.us and punched in the numbers and got this out. It's actually pretty easy because instead of putting in rounds and length, you can just put in the kernel count, since I calculated those out all ahead of time, and then hit calculate, hit your yield. So let's move on to the next hybrid. Alright, our next variety is this Pioneer 0589 AMXT, which I have over on the the west side of the field and on the end rows. And I didn't want to walk all the way down here into this side of the field, so we went down here along the end rows. I know these end rows down here do well. They do just as well as the rest of the field, so I walked in about 24 rows in or so, and we pulled some ears from there. So this is them. This is the picture of these three ears. They are only 16 around, which is just fine. They're all in the mid-30s long, so that gives us a pretty decent. First one was 217, second one 211, third one 223 for an average of 217.6. So, like I said, that is one of the better spots where that is in the end rows, but it is still end rows, so hopefully that's a decent representative of what that variety will look like. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, so next field. This is the field I call Staffers. It's all 97 day. It's a channel 19768. So the Pioneer Yield app, this field has a stand count anywhere from 22 to 29 was what I was finding of actual harvestable plants that are not green snapped. This field had hail and some green snap, so I kept the same 90,000 kernels. Pioneer app came up with 235, which is high. So these are the pictures of the three samples. 264, 192, 249 at 20,000 stand. It seems high. I mean, they're big ears, but let's take a look what I calculated. So ear 1, I came up with 187. Ear 2, 168. Ear 3, 182, for a total average calculated 179.2. Pioneer app, you can see right here, 235. A lot off. That's 50 bushel, 55 bushel off. That's a lot. So, big difference there. We will move on to the next one. Alright, last field. So this field has a bunch of varieties in it. You can see we split planter part of it, but this green area right here, this is a channel 103 day 20344. I don't know why I walked in here instead of walking in the decal. That's just where I went. So I grabbed some ears out of here, and let's see what Pioneer says. So 32,000 final stand harvestable plants in this field, 90,000 bushel again, or kernels again, and 228 is what Pioneer came up with. I grabbed 4 samples in this field because as I was walking out, there was a plant leaned over. I bumped it and it fell down. So I just grabbed that ear because I would not pick it up with the combine anyway. So 4 samples in this one, and let's see what I actually calculated. So this is the picture. I broke one in half because I wanted to look where the milk line was, that type of thing. Kernel depth, you know, just get a good look at it. So we had, these were pretty much all 16 around except for that one ear was small. And that was the one that was broke over, so I don't know, that was snapped early, late, I don't know. Anyway, these ones are decent. 216, 187, 204, 164 for a total calculated average 193.25 versus Pioneers. I did not update this. Go back here. Pioneers average of 228. I forgot to update this from the last one. So 228. Pioneers average. So yeah, 30 bushel. More than 30, but 35 bushel difference in there. So that is all my yields. Or not my yields, but what my guesses are. So it'd be interesting to take these early season guesses and see what actually happens in the combine and compare them later on in the year. So stay tuned for that video. If you want to see that, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. And we will be harvesting before you know it, only a couple weeks away.